What an impactful 2 days it has been. Thank you to all of our presenters, panelists, moderators, and participants for your words of inspiration, empowerment, leadership, and sharing your stories. This has been a tremendous success, and it is due to you all. We're not finished just yet. Before we hop into our next session, I do want to go over a couple of housekeeping notes quickly. Dion would love for your participation, so please be sure to fill in any questions or comments you have in the chat function, and we will be sure to get to those as time allows. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dion Aviki. She brings with her an energy like no other and purpose in her work. Her dynamic energy lends itself for her to lead us through how to lead with purpose. Dion is currently Director of Commercial Excellence at Thermo Fisher Scientific, where she leads global, cross-functional projects driving multi-million-dollar annual improvements. She served for 4 years on the Board of Directors for the Auburn Alumni Association and was the 2020 Young Alumni Achievement Award recipient, and she has an endowed scholarship. It is my pleasure to introduce my friend, Dion Aviki.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it. I'm extremely happy to be here today. And so just I guess a few housekeeping notes on my end. Before I get into the crux of the session, I'd like to share 3 things. First, I'd really like to thank, Gretchen Van Valkenburg, Danielle Fields, Erin Hutchins, and everyone at the Auburn Alumni Association for creating the Women's Summit and associated programming. These types of events are extremely informative and usually cost hundreds of dollars per registrant. So for you guys to offer this up for free, it's incredible. Second, just listening to someone speak for 30 or so minutes can be disengaging. So I'll be asking questions throughout the session. Please be prepared and have the confidence to share your thoughts in the chat section of the platform. Third, I'd like to give a disclaimer. All of what I share today are either my opinions based on my experiences or just good takeaways I've learned from others who I'll reference. But just remember, there's no one way to do anything. And like they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. My main goal with this session is to bring your awareness to what has worked for me and what I've learned from others so that you can hopefully leave this session with 1, an understanding of what makes a great leader, 2, tips for how to be seen and become a great leader, and 3, a strategy you can use to effectively lead your teams to accomplish even the toughest of goals. So I'd like to get started with a simple thought exercise. I want you to take a couple of seconds to think of a person who comes to mind when you hear the word leader. This can be someone from school, work, your social circle, church, or someone in politics. Have someone in mind? Now, I want you to quickly respond to the poll question that appears on your screen. Is that leader you pictured a man or a woman, male or female? Please submit your response. As we wait for the results of the poll, did you know, according to a 2020 publication by the Wall Street Journal, women earn the majority of college degrees and make up roughly half of the workforce? Based on this statistic, what percentage of our country's top 3,000 companies do you think women lead? Feel free to enter your comments in the chat section. And while you're doing that, I just want to share that what that figure is in 2020, it was half that a decade ago. Oh, wow, I'm seeing some really, really good answers. 10%, 15%, 10%, 20%, 0.2%. That's an interesting one, Mary. Good call. Close, I'd say. But the answer is just under 6%. Okay, 6% in 2020. And that's doubled from a decade ago. Fairly alarming. I think so. So now I'd like to look at your responses for how you guys responded. Oh, wow. Oh, incredible. 69% of you pictured a female. That is, I love to see that. And that's probably why you're on, attending this session. But typically, the majority of respondents to this poll would overwhelmingly choose men. So I like the way that you guys are going. But going back to that statistic I shared about, so few women in leadership, that is exactly why we're here today, right? The reason for going through this exercise is to emphasize the need for more women in leadership, so that when our sons and daughters get asked the same question, their answers will be closer to 50-50. Now, keep in mind that leader you just pictured. And I'd like for you to use the chat section again to share what characteristic about that person makes you perceive them as a leader. Any answer is good. The objective of this exercise is to understand why you perceive that person as a leader. Fearless, confident, nice, Heather, I like it. Involvement, yes. Confidence, yes, Mindy. Motivating, all right. Oh, these are fantastic answers. Trustworthy, oh, yep. Perseverance, Jessica, very nice. Good listener. You guys, these are all fantastic. I may not even need to go through what qualities make a great leader, because it looks like you guys have a pretty good idea. But yeah, so now let me ask you, does the quality, do these qualities, that you've shared, you feel that they make that person a great leader or a not so great leader? And the reason why I ask this is because perception of a leader and reality of a leader are two completely different things. And it is important to be able to distinguish between the two, because perception often trumps reality. And when an organization has a leader that is only a leader through perception, it results in destruction and failure. So, what characteristics make a great leader? And I know you guys just input a lot of, qualities that you admired about the leaders that you had pictured in your life. But what other characteristics do you think make a great leader? Vision. Wow, I like that, Charlene. Vision is true. So some say they are natural born leaders, but that mostly applies to their perceived qualities like speaking style or confidence or charisma. Cindy, fantastic point. Being ethical, I love it. And Pam, clear mission. Yes, you guys, we're on the same screen here. I like it. So I just want to say there are no natural born leaders. Great leadership is a skill that is learned and developed over time. And based on my experiences and research, I want to share, what I found and what I believe to be make up great leaders. One, they exude confidence. You can exude confidence by speaking clearly, maintaining good eye contact, good posture, showing up prepared, being transparent, and remaining calm in all situations. Okay. Number two, having courage. As Brene Brown, the famous research professor and author on human relationships, says, to have courage means you have the confidence to do what is right. This includes having the courage to stick around and have those difficult conversations, but much needed conversations, like providing feedback when something did not go so well, or sticking up for your team members in the face of adversity. And in my own experience, courage is most definitely contagious. Just ask my closest sorority sisters. Back in undergrad, I was quite a courageous sophomore. And one of my best friends in the sorority was quite the opposite of me. Well, for one, she was almost a foot taller, but I'm a really short person, so that's kind of typical. But really, she was really shy. For example, she didn't feel comfortable at all pushing her way to the front of the blue room to get to the front of the stage in order to see her favorite band perform. You know, she just didn't feel comfortable doing it. She didn't feel like it was her place to move and push to get what she wanted. I'm happy to say, after being around myself and other courageous women throughout her college experience, by her senior year, I was following her to get to the front of the stage. So surround yourself with confident and courageous people. I promise it will bring out the best in you. Number 3, show vulnerability. Vulnerability refers to the inability to withstand the effects of a hostile environment, to have one's guard down, open to criticism or harm. And you can't have courage without vulnerability. You know, during one of her TED Talks, Brené Brown shares her experience asking a military commander the following question: give me an example of courage on the battlefield that didn't require uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. He thought about it, and his answer: there are none. Every example of courage on the battlefield requires vulnerability. Some leaders think showing vulnerability is the key to losing. They weaponize uncertainty, creating fear, and then give their followers someone to blame. Who from the past does this remind you of? Feel free to add your comments into the chat. But remember, fear has a short shelf life, and it isn't sustainable. And I'm not getting any responses in the chat, unfortunately. I guess, does the Holocaust ring a bell? Maybe Mussolini, Hitler? But they are all leaders who did exactly this. So going back to vulnerability, just to be clear, vulnerability is not disclosure. It has boundaries. Don't overshare, don't cry uncontrollably, remain present, remain curious. Ask for feedback, even when it's hard. When you feel challenged, don't armor up. Instead, remain present and remain curious. In my adult life, starting in college, through reflection and conversations with friends, I've learned that people really open up to me. It's kind of crazy, and they do it fairly quickly. Like within the very first night of my meeting them, they'll share very personal aspects about their life that they didn't dare share with anyone else out of fear of judgment. So I asked my friends, why would they or anyone else open up to me like this? And that's when they told me, Dion, you're too short. They probably didn't think, that you would hear them. No. But in all reality, what their comments actually surmised to was that those people felt safe. They felt comfortable sharing this information with me. Because in what I do, I had already shared with them something about my personal life that most would be too embarrassed to share. I do have to give my mother credit for raising me with a sense of self-worth, giving me the confidence to love and embrace everything about myself, including my flaws. Number 4, showing vulnerability helps with another great leadership trait, making others feel safe to speak up. Great leaders give people the confidence to share ideas, free of criticism or judgment. This is critical in your professional and personal development. And once a group of people feel safe to share ideas, it can make all the difference in the world, especially to the ones struggling with a secret that others may not know. For example, my freshman year in college, for context, back in the year 2000, I was personally struggling with an issue that I had been trying to overcome for the past 5 years. And with the new freedom of college, I unfortunately found myself trying to drink my problem away. I wanted to get rid of my problem because growing up in Auburn, Alabama, my problem wasn't something anyone talked about in a positive way. And I was afraid I'd lose my newfound sorority sisters once they found out. But what I learned was the exact opposite. Because a handful of us had become very close, through showing vulnerability and creating that safe place to talk, one day I mustered up the courage to share my secret problem with those close sorority sisters of mine because I didn't feel like I was being my true authentic self. As I approached them sitting at a picnic table by Dowell Hall, I said, ladies, I have something to share with you. And I really hope you don't disown me as a friend for it. I'm gay. And how do you think they responded? Because I was afraid. But I'm really glad that it only took 1 second, because they all started laughing hysterically, with one saying, Dion, we love you and we don't care. Plus, I'm pretty sure we all already knew that anyway. 2 years later, because I had my sorority sisters' full support, I was elected Miss Homecoming. And I know for a fact there was no way I could have done that without my sorority sisters' support. Number 5, great leaders build trust. And one important way they do this is by holding themselves accountable. If they say they're going to provide a deliverable by X date, they do so. Another way they build trust is by not sharing information about other people that was told to them in confidence. It's pretty simple. Don't be a gossip. Number 6, they clearly communicate expectations and maintain focus on what truly matters. They don't sweat the small stuff or lose their cool over something trivial that doesn't significantly impact their objective. They keep their eyes on the prize. Number 7, they have integrity, like many of you mentioned. Someone who others can trust to stand up for the right thing, even during uncomfortable situations, like declining to pay a bribe in exchange for a multi-million-dollar business contract. Or unfortunately, in my case, from the time when I was a commercial sales engineer in the HVAC industry, several examples of me rejecting sexual propositions from customers in exchange for buying equipment. I would never be able to live with myself if I had responded in any other way. Number 8, great leaders are resilient. They've already prepared options for how to get back up after falling down. The more resilient you are, the more willing you will be able to take courageous risks, like a toddler learning to walk, or the first date after a divorce, or even trying to have a baby after a miscarriage. Embrace it, reframe it, and move on. Number 9, great leaders are like great coaches, and in more than one way. For one, they celebrate successes and give credit where it's due. And number 2, as a leader, you don't have to be the expert or give advice on everything. Your strength comes from drawing the best out of everyone. And a lot of leaders struggle with this in their life when they get to more senior management positions. But it's really like the old adage. Instead of giving a hungry person a fish, teach them how to fish. You can do this by asking them questions like, what is your motivation? Or what is a small step you can take to get you moving in the right direction? By asking them questions, it helps them reflect on what's important and enables them to walk through scenarios that will help them derive a solution that meets their objective and fits with their personal needs and limitations. So in summary, great leaders have confidence, courage, vulnerability, trust, ruthless prioritization, integrity, resilience, and great coaching skills. So now that we have an understanding of what qualities make a great leader, I'd like to share my thoughts on how you can establish yourself as a leader. But keep in mind, you need to maintain a track record of consistent behaviors exhibiting all of the qualities I just shared with you. These are table stakes, as in you must strive to maintain these qualities throughout your entire leadership journey. So, what's so hard about becoming a leader? Would you mind, feel free to put your comments in the chat. Why is it scary? Why is that hard for people to become a leader? Exposure, very true. Added responsibility can be tough if you don't know. Oh, imposter syndrome. Yes. How did you get there? Your disappointment, afraid of that. Good call, Rebecca. The criticism, Elaine, you hit a big one. All right, you guys are on top of the paperwork, Heather. Okay, all right, so let's, number one, people take great discomfort with doing something for the first time. They're afraid of criticism, failure, and the repercussions of failure. That is why it is so important to find a safe, low-risk environment where you can practice being a leader and better refine your leadership skills. For me, that safe place was the Greater Houston Auburn Club. When I first got involved around 12 or so years ago, I went after a role where I felt comfortable, young alumni coordinator, where my sole responsibility was for increasing young alumni engagement. And for those of you who know me, you know that I'm a very social person that loves getting to know people, especially Auburn people, and especially at happy hours. Not only was I getting to do what I loved, I was also learning how to be a leader, making each event better than the last. And through my experiences leading small events, I gained more confidence in my leadership skills and eventually felt ready to take on more and more responsibility. My next role became treasurer, and soon after that, I became president, culminating in my being selected for the board of directors of the Auburn Alumni Association. And throughout this journey, I found that given the low-risk environment that the Auburn clubs provided, it increased my willingness to take on greater leadership roles, resulting in my development as a leader, as well as one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. In my personal and professional life, I continued to use the leadership skills I learned through my involvement with Auburn clubs. I strongly encourage you to get involved with your local club. It could change your life like it did mine. Number two, another difficulty with becoming a leader is not knowing the process or how to position yourself within your specific organization to attain that leadership position. This is why having at least one mentor is so important. A mentor is a seasoned employee, one who can give you advice on how to get ahead and navigate the complexities of your organization. And if you can't naturally find a mentor through your everyday work, seek out other ways. Identify someone senior to you you have something in common with. It can be something as simple as you went to the same university, or have the same major, or from the same town, or have similar interests like golf or wine. And by the way, I am not suggesting that you drink wine with them, just that you share your knowledge. And to find these people, use LinkedIn or your company intranet. And if you identified someone, send them an email and ask them if they would mind taking 30 minutes to have an introduction meeting with you so that you can learn more about their experience at the company, their career journey, or ask for any advice on how to make sure you're meeting or beating expectations. And if you connect in that first meeting, ask if they would be okay with being your mentor, committing 30 minutes of their time each month. Take advantage of the fact that people love to talk about themselves and are flattered when you ask them for advice. Number three, another difficulty with becoming a leader is because you're not advocating for yourself. If people don't know that you're interested in becoming a leader, or they don't know about your experiences and capabilities, how can you expect them to promote you? Have the confidence to understand and acknowledge your contributions to your success, and have the courage to step up and ask for opportunities. If you don't expect to get a promotion. You can't expect to be handed anything, and no one has a crystal ball. They're not tracking what you do. If you want it, you have to go after it, and you have to be able to advocate for yourself. Another tip I recommend is to get a sponsor. A sponsor is someone who actively advocates for you, someone who can and does champion you for an upcoming opportunity or promotion. This person would most likely be your manager. So do whatever you can to make sure you work for someone who has these qualities. All right. So in addition to what I've just shared, I have a few more tips to share on how you can establish yourself as a leader. And for those of you who have some thoughts on this and they'd like to share in the chat, feel free, include things you've learned as well as I go through these. So number one, know your role and take initiative. Be self-motivating. Do not wait to be told exactly what to do. Make sure you understand the goal and boundaries, and then map out your plan, get alignment from your manager, and start making progress. 3, have a seat and a voice at the table. When you're in a meeting, be engaged. Ask better questions. Bring a different perspective. Often, women's voices get overshadowed by the multitude of men at the table. Don't sit back and let opportunities pass you by. Put your hands on the table, and find what makes it work for you. Number 4, this is something that I think all women struggle with, maybe. Don't give away thoughts with facial expressions. I personally really struggle with this. Be able to communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly without a lot of emotion. You have to be able to self-regulate the expression of your emotions. Be mindful of how you react in situations. Remember, you always want to be proud of how you responded in a situation in hindsight. Take a chance. Do something you haven't done before. This is the only way you will learn and grow. It will also help build your confidence. And there will always be critics, naysayers, and negative Neds. Don't sweat the haters. Focus on the long-term objective and keep doing what you do. Avoid perfectionism. It is self-destructive because it does not exist. I repeat, it does not exist, just like that limit in Mean Girls. Perfectionism is about trying to earn approval, pleasing others. Focus instead on yourself, developing yourself to be better every day. And in that same sense, try and leave every situation better than how you found it. And when you fail, and notice I said when, not if, don't worry, everything will be okay. Remember to reframe your failure as a learning opportunity, because the only failure is repeating the same mistake more than once. And always remember, you are anyone's equal, but no one's superior. Humility is key. Empathy is also helpful. And while there are many reasons why it is difficult to become a leader, ultimately, you first have to see yourself as a leader in order to become one. And I'll never forget the famous words of Dr. Ronald Newman, my thermodynamics 2 professor. During class, he asked us, what do you think is the #1 most limiting factor to your own success in life? Think about it, panelists. Think about it. What do you think it is? You feel free to enter your comments into the chat. Yourself, self-doubt. I like it. Okay, me. Yes, nice. Oh, wow. Yeah. All right, ladies, you got this. Yeah. And you know what his response was? Your own self-limiting beliefs. Exactly right. If you don't believe you can do it, you never will. Hearing that, it was honestly a game changer for me. It really opened up my mind to the possibilities. So in order to become a leader, you need to be able to lead yourself. And according to Lars Sudman, an executive trainer on leadership, self-leadership includes 3 components: One, self-awareness. Know your triggers and reactions to them. Understand how your behaviors impact others and your future opportunities. One way to increase self-awareness is to ask for feedback. Number two, reflection, self-reflection. Take the time to think back on how you handled a past experience. Look for areas of improvement. What could you have done better to have had a better outcome? And through self-reflection, your self-awareness will improve. And third, self-regulation. This is especially important for women, because women have the stereotype of being overly emotional. Self-regulation is really needed during situations where your expectations weren't met, or when people unexpectedly challenge you on something you've said. A tool that can help you better regulate, try reframing. For example, when you start getting angry about something, just stop and ask yourself, how important is this really to my overall objective? The majority of the time, you'll find it's not worth getting all riled up over. So now that I've shared my thoughts on how to establish yourself as a great leader and attain that leadership role, I'd like to share a strategy you can use to effectively lead your team through any situation. And that strategy is leading with purpose. In order to lead with purpose, you need to know your teammates. What drives them? What motivates them? The purpose should hook into their desires. Your teammates or followers, they need to see, feel, and understand the importance of what they are doing. People who understand the meaning and significance of their work are 3 times more likely to stay engaged. That's significant. And I'd like to give you a couple of examples from my life. One example, now from my professional life, I work at a company named Thermo Fisher Scientific. We're the world leader in serving science. I'll never forget March 16th, 2020, when Thermo Fisher received emergency use authorization approval for their COVID-19 molecular diagnostic testing platform, the COVID test kits. That was when it started. It felt like a pivotal moment in time. That day, the rush of inquiries from the highest seats of government, hospital systems, education systems, nursing homes, everywhere started coming in, all trying to secure testing products. Thermo Fisher had immobilized thousands of employees globally, sprung to the challenge, literally working around the clock to ramp up manufacturing and commercial operations to meet the needs of society. And because we were all impacted by this pandemic, it was fairly easy for us to see, feel, and understand the importance of what we were doing. We were enabling our customers to be there for society. And our leadership, they continued to communicate that message while thanking us for our dedication, countless hours of work, our commitment, especially during this dire time. And by leading with purpose, we were able to stand up a multi-billion-dollar business within a matter of 3 months, all with the existing people we had. And we all, even though we literally worked crazy hours, including myself, like 18-hour days, I was so proud to do it. And I really felt that I was making a difference in society. That is leading with purpose. Another example of this, and I'll be brief, I know I'm moving through time, was remember when I told you I was the president of the Greater Houston Auburn Club? Well, one of the roles of the different Auburn clubs, or the primary role, I think, besides alumni engagement, is raising dollars for scholarships for local students to attend Auburn. And being in Texas, we're out of state. And so I really wanted to create an endowment. And you know, it was a very, very lofty goal, because in order to get a fully funded endowment that would provide the out-of-state waiver, you know, for a kid to go to Auburn, we needed to get like in the 200 and some thousands, okay? And that's not the kind of club we were. We were raising like $10,000 a year. Anyway, you know, the vision had been communicated to me from a prior president, Ron Dyson, and I feel like I amplified that vision. We worked together to create a strategy, and I consistently shared within all of our messaging and the events that we did the reason why or where these donations would go. You are supporting a person just like yourself that wants to go to Auburn, that wants the benefit of that education. Help us help someone like you get what you got out of your education from Auburn. So we continue with that messaging. They knew what we were doing. We related it to them. It was the purpose, right? Even during our annual dinner, we had one of our prior scholarship recipients come up on the stand and share her thank you and the impact that the scholarship gave her with the hundreds of people in the crowd. And I was happy to say, I think we raised like $30,000 at that event. And it's because we were leading with purpose. And so that's really the crux of what I wanted to share. And if I leave you with one thing, I'd like to leave you with this. Have confidence in yourself and your abilities. Know that you are worthy and you deserve everything you've worked for. Now go after it and get it. You've earned it. I look forward to any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Dion. Yes, please, if anyone has any questions or comments or would like Dion to elaborate on any of the wonderful points that she shared, please be sure to hit those up in the chat, and we'll make sure that we address those as we go along. One of the side questions that I had, Dion, if that's okay with you, I'll go ahead and bring that one to the table, is you've obviously reached a very leadership role within your organization. And so how do you feel like you achieved that success, especially in your sector, in your industry, given the gender gap that is still very prevalent? How did you achieve that leadership role?
Right. That's a great question, Danielle. And I will say, I did go to business school, and getting your master's, your MBA definitely helps with that. But I had to communicate it. I had to advocate for myself. I had to network with people, let them know what I wanted to do and why I felt I was qualified, what value I brought, right? And by sharing the value that it's extremely helpful. But the other side of that, Danielle, is that my manager, he's my advocate. He backs me up. So when these people that I'm talking with, when they're looking at putting me in their succession plan as a general manager, it's not just what I say. They go to my manager and they ask his opinion. And when he champions for me, I mean, that's what makes it happen. But you got to go after it, and you have to ask for it. Let people know what your aspirations are. Great question.
That's great answer. Our next one is, what is your why?
My why?
What is your why? What is your, I guess maybe to elaborate a little bit, might be perhaps what's your inspiration, or what is your why?
Yes.
For doing it all?
Yeah, no problem. My why for doing everything I do is that I'm really big on inclusion, and I'm really big on teaching. When I grew up, I didn't necessarily fit in with people. I didn't feel like I belonged. And so I even though I had the confidence from my mother, that she instilled in me, people still want a social amount of social interaction and acceptance. But because I felt what I did feel, and or maybe I didn't get information or guidance when I wish I had, I understood what it was like not to have that. So now, because I know better through experience, I want to share what I know, and I want to do things to help others. because I want to be inclusive. I don't want people to feel how I felt when I didn't feel included. And I don't want people to feel like they don't know where to go or what to do next, which is why I share my advice on how you may be able to do this or do that. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Dion. We've got another one from Melinda. She says, I think often the confidence of women can be perceived poorly, interpreted as aggression. Could you comment a little about experiences you may have had like this when advocating for yourself and how you have navigated it?
Oh my gosh, that is such a relevant question for me. Okay, so I will share, or let me share a friend's story. A friend had a conversation, had a conversation with someone who's in a general manager role, communicating. They had this interaction with this guy one time, 30 minutes, communicating that, these are my experiences, this value I bring, and I'd really like to become a general manager. And then that was it. And so fast forward, literally one interaction that my friend has with this man. That's one. Fast forward a month later, my friend has been working on this project, and she had to meet with this man again to get his input on, yay or nay, feedback on this recommendation. And during that recommendation, the guy shared with my friend, we had a discussion on an HR discussion on talent and who's on succession plans for certain roles, and your name came up as in the succession plan for this general management role, and the guy shared with my friend, and I just want to let you know that, and it may be my personal bias, but I felt like you have too much. And my friend was kind of in awe because my friend was just being normal, but she's female, right? And so how you respond to that, if you know that's one person saying something because of their unconscious bias, which it most likely is, squash it. I wouldn't even worry about it, because you should know if you come off as arrogant or not confident. Ask someone that you work with, someone that you feel safe asking this question to, not someone from your personal life, because I think people from personal lives, you act differently with them, right? But someone from your professional life, get their opinion and feedback. And I think you might find that you're maybe not being too confident. You're being just right. Don't sweat the haters is what I'm saying.
Great advice, Dion. I think we've got time for one more. Moira has posed the question, what practical steps can we take to grow our leadership?
Yeah, the practical steps, it's that self-awareness. Know your self-awareness. Like, you've got to be self-aware. Use self-reflection so that you can look back on how to improve yourself, and self-regulation. It is key for that. But also, you can't be afraid. You have to have the confidence and the courage. It's being a role model, right? And as you do that, you'll get more comfortable with yourself and practicing those skills. I hope that answers your question, Maura. It's a great question. But I tried to share a lot of practical steps in this deck. I just didn't, it's a lot of information, you guys, but I wanted to get it out there.
Well, Dion, you did an absolutely fabulous job. All of the points that you shared today were so inspiring and definitely have set us forward for leadership and tapped into our true potential as women. So thank you so much for all that you did today. We appreciate you. And at this point, I would like to just do a couple more housekeeping notes as we do come to the conclusion of the summit. Thank you all so much for joining us over the last 2 days. There are a couple of conversations that will continue post-summit that I would like to invite each of you to participate in, should your schedule allow. The Women's Leadership Institute at 3 p.m. will be hosting a networking opportunity to learn more on networking with your fellow alumni, as well as the College of Business, their Women in Business, at 4 o'clock. We'll be featuring Michelle McKenna, who is the CIO of the National Football League and responsible for its technology strategy and shared service delivery in management of the league's technology activities. And I'm going to drop both of those links in the chat so that you can access those quickly. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Gretchen, who serves as Vice President of Alumni Affairs and the Executive Director of the Auburn Alumni Association. Gretchen?
Thank you, Danielle and Dion. That was fabulous. Very much enjoyed that engaging session. I know all of us did. And as we conclude the Auburn Alumni Association's inaugural Women of Auburn Summit, I wanted to just thank you for joining us this last 2 days. I have been so inspired by all of our presenters. They have been industry pioneers, they've been leaders, the veterans, moms, students, and philanthropists, and much more. All of these accomplished women are making such an incredible impact in their communities and leaving a legacy for generations to come. The stories that they have shared have been so inspirational, and the last 2 days are just the beginning. We really look forward to future Auburn women's programming, but we need your help. We need you to help us shape what that program looks like, and invite you, when you get your post-event survey, take some time to really reflect on that and give us some of your insight and feedback. One of the things that I saw over the last couple of days is just the eagerness of Auburn alumni to want to give back, to connect to our students in ways that are helpful, but also they're meaningful to themselves. And so I see a great, bright future there. As we close, I just encourage you to reflect on all of the information that you have heard over the last 2 days. And I just thank you again for attending and helping us shape what this future is going to be like for Auburn women. Thanks again for making our summit an incredible success, and War Eagle.